All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Couch Podcast. My name's Aaron,
And I'm Avery.
and today is another day, another podcast. How are you doing, sis?
I'm pretty good.
Good,
Uh,
good.
Life's pretty the same.
Yeah. And how's school and everything? So we're in January. I know I'm starting second semester. You're quadmester, so you on your third one
Yeah.
now?
So right now, we're still in our second quadmester. We finished this one, I think, beginning of February. I have
Nice.
no idea.
Yeah, I just over the holidays I finished my first semester, and I was fortunate enough to get a month break, so I don't start again until the 18th, which is next Monday, by the time this goes out. So
Wow.
yeah, I can't believe we're like halfway. We're at that 50% mark with school and stuff. But speaking of school, we have some very special guests today.
We
Um,
do.
Avery, do you want to give them a nice little intro?
Sure. So we have Ryan and Avery from the youth or the employment and education support.
Yes, and providing employment education support for the hub. How y'all two doing?
I'm doing pretty good. This is Avery, by the way.
That's other Avery. We have a lot of Averys today.
Yes, double Avery.
And I'm Ryan.
Nice.
And I'm the teacher that works with the support hub. So I do education, and other Avery does employment.
Nice. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what it is that well, I guess we'll start with you, Avery. Like what exactly with employment do you provide support with?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I typically support like people who are either looking to get their resume kind of together, are maybe experiencing some nerves around like handing out a resume or interacting with people to get a job, the interview, how to dress for it, how to dress for a job, things like that. So it could be someone with no experience. It could be someone that has like a lot of experience, but just things haven't panned out well for them. Or some people have a tough time actually like staying with a job. So I kind of can be the person to help them figure out where they want to go. It's all like, I don't want to say it's all on them, but it's directed more by like the people that I work with, so the
Mm-hmm.
youth that I get to help. Like I encourage them to figure out where they want to go. It's not going to come from me, but I will like help talk them to that point,
Mm-hmm.
so they can be like, yeah, I think this is the goal that I want to get to, and then we kind of make a plan from there. And it can take anywhere from like a couple of months to years to like weeks. It really depends on what the person's looking for.
Nice. And so, you're saying you were helping with resumes and stuff, but the one thing, do you also, I know like when I first started like applying for jobs, I had issues with like knowing like, you know, what I was like as an employee of a certain place, like what I'm allowed, like what my rights are and stuff. Like, um, do you also help with like navigating that so that youth are informed with like what they're allowed to do and what they can say no to?
Yeah, definitely. There's different like kind of like online courses or different what would you call them, like acts, I guess. So there's
Mm-hmm.
like your Employment Safety Act and then your Ontario like Disabilities Act as well. So depending on what the person that I'm working with like needs, obviously there's ones that you always cover. And honestly, like if the job that you're starting doesn't ask you to like read through those things and sign them off, that's probably a red flag. Because those are things that they're responsible for too. So it goes like a bit of both ways, with employees knowing their rights and then obviously employers knowing their end of the stick as well. But yeah, if someone's actually like, I have a client that I'm working with that is having some issues at a place that she worked at and trying to get different items back and navigate that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of her go to at the moment. We're right problem solving the best way for that person to, resolve the situation and move forward. So definitely.
Nice, nice. All right. So thank you so much for sharing about that. Do you have like a favorite part of your job that you've like so far that you've done?
Um, I really enjoy getting to know the people. Like, I love hearing what their stories are, their experiences. Like, and I also really like hearing where they want to go. Because it kind of asks the question of like, all right, what do you need like short term? Like, what's something that has to happen? But then I also like to ask like, what's your long term goal? Like, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Like, what do you want your life to look like? And I don't know, it's really neat to hear like people's passions come up and kind of the different creative routes that they want to take to get there and stuff. So I don't know, that's always like fun and engaging for me.
Nice. That's that. I think that would be it's interest. It would be interesting to hear everyone's
Mm-hmm.
like goals and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do you want youth to know about like what you do and like your services you offer?
What do I want youth to know? I want them to know it's not as scary as they might think it is. I hope I'm coming across as a chill person via podcast, but yeah, like to just meet them where they're at. Like, I'm not right. The expectations are pretty normal in the sense of like I just want to know where they're at, what I can do to help them. Like, it's all basically it's all about them. It doesn't have much to do with me, and I'm not going to pressure them into doing something that they're not wanting to do. Like, if someone's not ready, we can always change like what the goal would be. Or if we start working towards a goal and things come up and like life happens or there's stressors or different like anxieties and stuff, like all they got to do is let me know and we can kind of either press pause or like maybe like change the goal a bit and go from there.
Nice, nice. So switching it over to education, Ryan, do you want to tell our listeners here a little bit about what you do with education support?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so education at first you think, ah, school, I'm so sick of school. And, I'm already doing school. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Um, and that's super fine. I think, you've been through school a lot of years and you kind of have a certain impression of it. Most students I meet, they've got like a very narrow view based on what their experience has been. And so what I do when people come to me, they're like, things aren't working out. I want to do something, but I don't necessarily know what I even want to do or how I go about doing it. And that's where I come in. Um, because there's actually a lot more options out there for people than they realize. So, like right now, it's been tricky because of the pandemic, but doing some things. But one of the really awesome things is there's a lot more online courses. So, like if you're living in this area, you don't have to, you can go to schools that are like pretty far away. I just helped sign up one person, for example, in a program at Queen's University. They're going to be doing all their courses online from here. So, like, do you know what I mean? You don't necessarily have to go away to do a program somewhere. I help look up
Mm-hmm.
programs you might not be aware are offered through distance education or online. So that's something I do. The other thing I do is I help you navigate other little problems you might have. So, like, students might take a course at Georgian College in Barrie, for example, but they're like, oh no, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get to my classes because I have a transportation problem. I don't have a car. Or, I need money for a bus pass, all those things. So, it's like, that's something I do too. Try and look up ways. Workarounds. So, like, transportation schedules, work at a class schedule, they'll work with your bus schedule. I help students find free money. A lot of schools have bursaries and awards that they give
Yeah.
out, and
Mm-hmm.
it is actually like there's so many of them, but it's really hard to find information on them. So having someone to actually go and like find money for you, and it's like, please sign this. We are going to get you some money to pay for your bus pass or for your laptop or whatever it is you need. Like those are really big important things.
Yeah, and it sounds like
Yeah.
that's a very helpful thing because I know when I was in grade 12, like years ago, like it was they always talked about even if you don't like just apply, there's so much free money out there that doesn't get claimed because people don't apply to these bursaries or these like scholarships and all that stuff. But it sounds like through educate like the education support here that you're offering through the hub and stuff, you literally are doing the work of, oh, this looks like you can apply to it and it works and you qualify and all this. just sign and do what you need to, and bada bing.
Yeah,
you're good.
so it's like having those applications kind of like ready to go.
Yeah.
So for schools I work with a lot in our area, so we have like Georgian and Lakehead and Orillia and stuff like that. It's like it's really easy to apply. If you want to go to a program in a school that's far away from the area, I can still make calls, and because that's my job, I've got the time. I'll phone around and usually get some answers for you. So like my goal is to try and make education a little bit easier for you.
Yeah.
And some of that's working with Avery and others, because you also might want to go to school for like a career, but you don't know exactly what you want to do. So before you go all in on a program, maybe you want to talk to some people and find out what kind of programs are there, or it's even doing something like a co-op, or even going at, trying on a job for a bit. So like it might be trial experience, just checking out an environment so you can say, hey, do I really want to do this or not? Because it's really hard to make a career decision where you're like, I'm going to do something for the next 30 years, and like day 2 on the job, you're like, I really hate this.
Yeah.
So it's like it's good to do like a little bit of that. I'm probably the only teacher that has more homework for myself after I talk to you than you do, because like I talk to you, I try and find your interests. It's like, okay, I need to find people for you to talk to about this thing you want to do, and like, where would you live, is there student residence or apartments? So like I ask a whole lot of questions, and it's like even hobbies and interests, because like I want to know what you're into, because whatever you end up doing, it has to be like halfway normal and feel like a good life. One of the things right now that's been a big thing is everyone is getting like Zoom fatigue.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a ton of online courses out there, but there's some people like, I cannot stare at my screen anymore. So we've actually been finding some courses are being offered through correspondence booklets. So it's something, you can do the exact same course, but it's more pen and paper, which like we look at as kind of old school, but right now a lot of people are turning to that just because they would like to do something that's not sitting in front of a screen.
Yeah.
So like that's just one example of like a little different thing out there that I can help you find.
Nice. Well, it sounds like education and employment, the dynamic duo here at the hub, has a lot of things that they offer to help our youth.
Just so we're clear, in the dynamic duo, I'm Batman.
Oh.
I don't know. I think we might need to find a better way to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna say that
here,
you kind of just chose Batman there, Ryan. What the heck?
Right? I didn't even know that was coming.
Yeah. didn't even give her a chance to claim
Nope.
it. Nope.
Shotgun Batman, straight out.
Well, while we're on like having fun here, Avery, do we want to start off this fun little segment we kind of planned for our guest here?
Sure, yeah. Do you want to start it?
As I literally just asked you to start. Okay, I'll start it. Okay, so today since as you all said, you're helping a lot of youth with employment, applying for jobs, education, on navigating online learning. We thought we would come to you with, since Avery and I are technically youth, some youth problems here, and just kind of chat about what the challenge was, and like how we can, and like what your tips and advice would be to kind of overcome it. So Avery, do you want to start this one, or do you want me to start this one?
I'll start it. I'll start it. So, one that I have, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other students have, whether it be like high school, university, whatever, like, is just like being really overwhelmed with like workloads, especially with online now, because from what I've noticed from having online classes is sometimes teachers will act like you don't have other classes and they give you even more work than you would normally have.
Yep.
And it just gets really overwhelming. So like, do you have any tips on like how to deal with that, or just like even communicate with your teachers?
110%. Yeah. No, every single teacher will do that. I have been a teacher in a school. I have taught at Georgian College, and when they do it, they're not actually trying to be mean. They think their course is the only course because it's the one they're teaching. and they're really worried that, you know, they're not providing you with enough stuff, especially at the college levels. Like, you're actually paying for it, so like they want to make sure you're getting all the
Mm-hmm.
content. The trick is, a lot of the times they don't tell you what is mandatory and what is optional. So in a lot of cases, they're giving you extra stuff that's really about enrichment. You know, if you're going to go in this field, here's some really cool resources to check out. That's a whole lot different from homework. So
Mm-hmm.
having that conversation and like explaining to your teacher, your prof, whoever it is you're dealing with, and saying, I've got all these things on my plate. What do I really need to be focusing on from you? So, like, you know, helping people either prepare themselves for that discussion, or sometimes I'll even have that discussion with the teacher if that's something that's helpful to you, because I know that can also be a tricky conversation. And some people, most of the time, people are pretty open to adjusting things. Like, once they hear, oh, you have all these things, that's right, you do have a life. Okay, let's figure it out. The other thing that you sometimes have to do too is take a step back and say, you know what, I was like really ambitious. I really wanted to do all this stuff, but it's too much right now. It is really normal for students to reduce their course load. And everyone thinks that that's like, oh, I'm conceding defeat, or oh, this is a terrible thing, or it's now going to take me longer to finish what I'm doing. You know what? It's better to take longer and at the end of it feel good about yourself and have a good grade than try and like do everything at once and have a bad grade and have a lot of stress
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I've had at least this year 3 or 4 students I've worked with that we've ended up reducing their course load, because and I help with that negotiation where it's like, you know what, you have a lot on the go. We need to find a way to reduce your courses and make sure that there's no penalty or repercussions for doing that. And most places are actually like pretty open for that. They want, believe it or not, all of your teachers want you to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you point out that they're doing something that is going to cause like problems and failure, they're like, they'll usually work with you. And that's a hard conversation to have. The nice thing about me, they can't send me to the office or fail me, so I just keep bugging them, and they just kind of eventually give in. So, you know, they make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that's good to know that like if a youth does find it hard to like reach out to their teacher and be like, hey, like this is a little much, and I don't know if I can like that. You can be that person to communicate that to them.
Yeah, is
Mm-hmm.
it cool if I like
Yeah.
add something?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
for it.
I found like when I was in college and like working also on top of that and like doing whatever else, trying to have a social life or afford a social life. What I had to do was like go through my syllabus, and this is going to make me sound really nerdy, but like, right, you have to figure out where the big stuff is that is going to add up to the most of your mark, right?
Mhm.
And then sometimes if you have a lot of stuff going on, you don't want to stress yourself out to the max, then it's like, okay, is that 5% really worth it? And like, I'm not saying don't do your work, but I'm saying pick the stuff that's going to like add up in the long run, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you just got to, yeah, narrow it down. And then also being nerdy, I would map out like a calendar of the semester and take my assignment dates and put them into the calendar, and so
Mhm.
that I could see when like the crap show was about to happen. So like if there was right
Yeah.
midterms coming up, then it was like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, take like 2 weeks before and start like working on that paper that's due the same day you have a midterm or something.
Mhm.
But that was me being nerdy. So
Well, it's part of like what one of my profs said at the end of the class is that always just remember time management's your friend this year, especially with online learning, and
Mm-hmm.
because at least just me personally, like I find it's different when you're constantly going to a class and you have a prof or a teacher there, like reminding you, oh, don't forget, like this is coming up. But when it's online, it's kind of like you're kind of responsible for making sure you stay on top of that. So he would always say time management will be your best friend. What kind of had an on and off relationship with that this semester, but I managed. I'm doing good. So, but yeah, no, that's thank you for sharing that, because and as Avery said, a lot of youth are for sure
Yeah.
like having problems with workload and just managing online learning. Um, I guess my problem, this, if I'm okay to ask, so along with education as well, and that's changed obviously through the pandemic and stuff. But something that maybe like my like some people relate to is summer jobs. It's one of those things that at the end of every year, you always you always think, okay, how am I going to make money throughout the summer? Well, I was just wondering, like, now with this pandemic in mind, what should youth do so that way they can, make sure that they have a job for the summer and saving up for school and stuff, and any tips on how to go through that process?
Yeah, I always remember like summer jobs being really stressful when I
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
Yeah.
school because it's like, oh crap, like you've got those 3 or 4 months to try and cram in as much into your bank account as you can. And like securing a job is usually the more stressful part, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes, one time I made the mistake of like, oh, summer jobs, like I'll apply like in April. And I got home and started Googling, like searching for jobs. And it's like, oh, all the postings for the cool ones ended in like March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would recommend like start looking January, February
Mhm.
online or putting feelers out to like people you might know, whether they have like a landscaping company and you're cool with cutting grass or doing gardens. Those are definitely jobs that are looking for students and want students.
Mhm.
And you're outside, which is nice, especially during a pandemic. Like you can be in the sunshine still
Mhm.
instead of at a desk, or I mean, a desk might be your gym, in which case, um, like looking at the different townships and jobs that they might be offering for the summer. There's a lot that pop up in Penetang Midland area for sure, and Tay, even Barrie if you're down that way, especially in like summer camps.
Mhm.
I know that it is a bit different with COVID, but there was some programs that were still able to run outside. Um, and of course, like the parks and stuff, if you're into camping or hiking and things like that, they're always looking for summer students.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the more prepared you are, the better. And if um, right, that means getting someone to look over your resume in right over your Christmas break, so that come January, February, you're ready
Mhm.
and do it. Like it doesn't hurt to be over prepared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Better safe than sorry for sure.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, if you're interested in going into a certain career area or something like that, talk to your teachers, talk to your, if you're doing post-secondary, talk to your prof, whatever, because sometimes they have suggestions about jobs you wouldn't even think about that might be related to the field or area you're getting into. So like
Mhm.
I know one person, for example, is interested in going in, hoping to do some vet tech type stuff, so they're actually going to work with someone that does grooming and stuff on the side. Like, do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's like it's kind of animal focused or related.
Mhm.
Or again, if you're doing, I have another client that was working on small engines, so we found a shop that's going to employ them part
Oh.
time. So, that's a good example where it's like if you're going to be doing school and like, why don't you try doing it as a job too? Because then you'll really decide if you actually want to do that kind of work,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and make a little money while you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a smart idea, kind of combining once again the dynamic duo of education and employment, right? um, but going back to that summer job thing, what do you recommend for those who might, given that right now we're in this pandemic, like who are hesitant about going and applying for summer jobs just because they're worried about their health and safety and all that. Do you have any tips or advice on for those youth who are thinking like that right now?
Yeah, so someone that's like maybe has like underlying health conditions kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In that case, there are different ways for you to make like money online. Um, it can be anything from like doing surveys to typing up like audio scripts, or even doing recording, which would require you to get some recording equipment like a mic and things like that. But you can like audition for different
Mm,
transcripts for you to basically like talk it out.
nice.
And often, like, part of the thing with employment is if you go to an interview and they're really enjoying you and like you're kind of contending for that position, or like you're, up there, and they sounds like they want to hire you, but you're kind of concerned about it. They do have, basically, they're supposed to accommodate you based on your health, and if you have like a doctor's note and things like that. If the employer is agreeable, they should be able to help you like work from home so that you're not compromised and staying safe, because that's one of your rights, is to, right, you can decline like unsafe work, and through like the accommodations act, like there, you can definitely ask and see that hopefully you can work from home potentially.
All right. Well, thanks so much for helping us with our problems there. I'm hoping like that some of the listeners that they can relate to some of that and find some of the answers useful to them. And who knows, maybe some people are about to reach out right now to get some help, right?
Yeah, and I think like it's important to remember it's a weird time. So if you're struggling with job or education, like that's really normal right now.
Mm-hmm.
And don't take it personally. Like it's not you, it's just the world that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll let you in on a secret, because this is a really good one. Everyone's struggling with online education, because I've had students call me and like, I can't upload the PDF for my assignment and it's due in like 10 minutes. What do I do? I'm like, don't freak out. It's all good. But on the side, I've actually also worked with some teachers and some profs. They are just as stressed as you are, if not more so, because they're making everything up as they go along. And so like everyone needs to just relax this year and realize we're all kind of in the same thing together. Like, and when you understand that like everyone's under stress, it's a bit of a different environment. And so long as you approach people with like, a good tone, usually they're willing to work with you. So like the hardest thing is people are always afraid to ask the question. They're afraid to, ask for money for school. They're afraid to apply to a program. They're afraid to ask their teacher for accommodation. The people you're talking to are under their own stress and stuff too. So they're actually a lot more receptive than you think. So give it a try. And, the worst thing that could ever happen is someone says no.
Yeah.
When you get past that, not so bad.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, just going with that, I was going to ask, do both of you have some final little tips for whether it be like online learning or like applying, like with your resumes, any like what's like the golden advice you could give to a youth? I guess I'll start with Avery would say resumes, because I know resumes, I've gone through many drafts before I found a successful resume.
Yeah.
So any advice on that?
Well, and I think like that's, like you kind of said it, like you're gonna go through drafts, and that's almost a good thing, right? You weed out what doesn't work and you figure out what does work, until you get that like primo resume that you're proud of, right? And you can actually speak to. So one thing I guess would be use language that you understand on it. Like you don't have to be super wordy or use elaborate words when you can like say something simply. Because if you're in an interview and someone asks you like, what did you mean when you said that on your resume, and you're like, what the heck did that word even mean? Like
it's like
you're a little SOL, right?
Yeah.
So that's one for sure. And the other thing that I find people get stuck on is, they'll hand out resumes, but are you calling them back? Like ask them if like they've had a chance to look at your resume yet. So keep track of where you're handing them out. Google their phone number. I used to just be like, hey, like my name's Avery, I have handed in a resume to this person a couple weeks ago. I was wondering if you guys had a chance to look at it and when we could schedule an interview. Like do that, because that's how you get remembered, and then that's how they go like, oh, this person's actually like legitimately wants a job.
It wasn't just one of those like, oh, I'm just gonna apply for it. It's like because you're showing like that you're wanting to go there, so calling them back shows that.
Yeah, exactly, because sometimes employers think like, oh, they're just there because like their parents want them to have a job, you know? It's like
Yeah.
maybe that's true, but like don't let them know that.
Keep it behind the scenes. Keep it behind
Yeah,
the scenes.
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a good one. How about you, Mr. Batman Ryan himself?
Batman. No, yeah, as a educational Cape Crusader, what could I recommend? Uh, the biggest thing, and it doesn't seem like a big thing, but it really makes a difference. I have, I like to say two types of people approach me. There are the people that come to me at the very start of the semester saying, I'm just starting a course or I'm about to start a course and I think I'm going to need some help. And then there's the people that phone me like the day before their final exam saying, I think I'm failing if I don't, can you help me pass this exam tomorrow? I try my best with both, but I definitely can do a lot more for the people that talk to me early. And this goes for your teachers or profs or anything too. Again, it'll sound a little bit nerdy, but like I used to always go and introduce myself and talk to my profs like the first week of school. Just to, and if I had any issues, raise them. But sometimes it was just to be social so that, if I did show up at their door like 2 weeks before the end of term with a problem, it's not the first time that they've met me or seen me. I think, and I've been in that educational position when someone is like coming to you at the very end and it's like, why didn't you talk to me sooner, right? Like, if you have a problem, it's okay to say, I'm struggling with something. Can you give me some help? Because then at least that person's aware of you. And if they know that you're trying, most teachers or profs will go like the extra mile for the person that comes to them early and try and find a way to make it work. If you come to them like 10 minutes before the exam saying, I'm having problems, it's like,
Not
that's not so great.
Yeah.
So like, you know what I mean? It's like, January is when you really need to be talking to your profs. Don't wait until like the end of term.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, the two of you, for sharing your expertise on employment, education, how can the listeners here connect if they want to connect with your services? How can they reach out and connect?
All right. Yeah. No, we got a couple options. First thing, you could always contact the Youth Hub. The Youth Hub is awesome. So if you come to them with like a job-related problem or a school-related problem, they're probably going to put you in touch with us. If you want to reach us directly, we're both available through the Hero Center here at the Community Health Hub. So you can look us up online, give a call, and they will so whoever answers will eventually put you through to the right person. We kind of share the phone, so we'll figure it out. And yeah, that's the best way to go forward.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, thank you again so much for joining us on our podcast today. As Ryan said there, if you want to connect with any of the services that the Hub here provides and get connected, you can call us at 705-427-5639. You can also check out our social media. We're NSYW Hub on Twitter and Instagram, and then you can find us on Facebook as well at North Simcoe Youth Wellness Hub. All right. Any last words there, Avery?
Which Avery? There's two.
Oh, right. You, Avery.
I just want to thank you guys for coming and talking with us and answering some of our questions. And I'm sure this will, hopefully, fingers crossed, help a lot of kids who listen to this.
Oh, yeah.
It's, you know what, the hard thing, and I've tried to already do a few little online sessions on the calendar for the Youth Hub, and I'm trying to find like a cooler name than like education session. Because like even I don't want to be a part of that, and I'm a teacher. So it's that's just the hard thing. I actually was trying to come up with a list of names for it, and I showed it to my wife, and she's like, "Wow, you are like so old and lame." Like it's I think my favorite one I came up with was like too school for cool, and she's like, "No, hard no."
Too school for cool.
So like. I think part of his marketing is like people want services, but you don't want it to sound like a terrible infomercial, So it's tricky.
Yeah,
it's tricky
for sure. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace and blessings.
I'm still Batman.
Whatever.
Hey.